We always hear about misogyny, but rarely do we ever hear conversations about misandry. And today we're going to get all into it. I'm your host, Cool Colas, and you are now tuning into another video on my channel. So let's get into it. To be specific, I'm not going to be just talking about misandry itself. I'm going to be talking about anti-black misandry. So in other words, for those of you all who do not know what this concept is, misandry is having contempt or hate or dislike for men. And in the case of anti-black misandry, we're talking specifically about black men. Although any man can experience misandry, no type of man experiences misandry as intensely as a black man. And let me explain what I mean by that. I say this because the black male experience with misandry is an advanced form that is almost like a double whammy because it includes anti-blackness itself. Dr. TommyJCurry has spoken about this concept multiple times in his lectures. And for those of you all who do not know who he is the author of the book, The Man Not: Race, Class, Genre, and the Dilemma of Black Manhood. And he argues that anti-black misandry isn't just a feeling, it's a system. He says black men are uniquely positioned as targets of racism and also as scapegoats for patriarchy. Society treats black men as hypermasculine threats who must be controlled while also denying them the social power that male privilege supposedly brings. Dr. Curry calls this the gendered racism problem, where stereotypes of criminality and violence and sexual danger are baked into how institutions police, educate, and portray black men as a whole. And what he shows is that black men are not the beneficiaries of patriarchy in America. As a matter of fact, we are the casualties. That means that when people say men are privileged, they're really often imagining white men. When they apply that same critique, though, to black men, it becomes weaponized misandry, and it turns victims of racial oppression into symbols of male oppression. Curry's work proves what many of us already know. Black men aren't feared because of power. We're feared because of the myth of our power. And this has been an image that has been ingrained a lot over time. I mean, think about post-racial criminalization of black men after the emancipation, and the United States used propaganda and law and black codes and all these other things to rebrand black men as inherently dangerous or as lazy. You know, they laid down this foundation of contempt towards us, and they allowed society to basically continue to eat off of that and continue that. You know, they portrayed us as the brute, they portrayed us as the buck. They've had all these negative stereotypes. I mean, think about movies like Birth of a Nation. Think about movies like The Color Purple, where we have been portrayed in a certain way that's negative. And even with The Color Purple, it's interesting because I think about how, although that was supposed to be something that was based on a true story, it was actually filmed and produced by somebody who was not even black. So when you think about Steven Spielberg and him filming that and that type of thing, it shows you how a lot of them are even willing participants. Matter of fact, the main projectors of trying to create these images of us. A lot of these old stereotypes have evolved into what we see today. So that means painting these images of black men as being toxic and irresponsible and narcissistic and dangerous by default. That's just kind of the images that they try to portray of us in general. The white man is already targeting us as black men because they don't want us to try and overcome their oppression and racism. That's why black men are dogpiled on, especially when we use our voices to discuss racism and how it impacts black people as a whole. As a matter of fact, foundational black American men are the main group of men who are even willing to tackle racism at all. And that's why a lot of these other buffer groups, a lot of these other tools of white supremacy and white supremacists themselves love to go around and start calling us victims. And the reason why is because a lot of them function in this system of cowardice. And they have a if you can't beat them, then join them type of mentality. So a lot of them kind of get into this thing where they're going to be passive aggressive and make comments like you're a victim because of the fact that we're willing to stand up against racism and we have enough self-respect to call out things when they aren't right. See, the double whammy comes into effect when we are attacked by our own. And what I mean by our own are some black women. Specifically, I'm talking about the Shea Butter Samba crew, which you've seen me make a video about in the past. And even sometimes I will say this too, when it comes to this whole misandry thing, we'll even get it from some white women because there's these white women who will try to project this image as if we can be their oppressors in a way. So a lot of times they'll try to lie to basically make it seem like when they talk about patriarchy and there being an issue with sexism, that we're a part of that, meaning that we can be a direct oppressor of them. But a lot of these little male-eating white supremacist women are saying this while also forgetting that white women played a crucial role in enslaving black men during slavery, and not only enslaving them, but doing horrible and cruel things to them. So to say that is actually ass backwards, and it's them projecting the truth about their own culture. A lot of these white women try to project this feminist bullshit onto us as if sexism is a constant problem while making the race factor negligible. But just understand that whenever a white person does this, it's really just racism. Because a lot of them will try to do that. They'll try to point out something about a black man that is outside of race, and they'll try to present it as if it's some type of advantage that we have in life over them. And anytime a white person does this, they'll try to point to either classism or sexism or ageism when really the issue is actually race. So they'll literally point to and allude to other things being an issue, but really it's an issue of racism itself. And so what that means is that white people think that they can neglect your race or racial components to make it seem like we are either on an even playing field or they are on a playing field where they are actually more disadvantaged in life. And this in itself is used to negate racism as a thing. And this anti-black misandry, which really is racism in this case, has been extended to many different places. It's been extended to education. It's been extended to the justice system. It's been extended to the workplace. I mean, if you think about education, black boys are suspended and expelled at a much higher rate than their non-black counterparts as a group. I mean, even when you look at education, black boys are suspended and expelled at a higher rate than their non-black and white counterparts. When you think about the workplace, there were studies that were done. Specifically, there was one done, I think, in Harvard, and I believe it was called the Bertrand and Mullainathan, I think that's how you say it, study that was done in 2004. And it showed that job applicants with black sounding names got fewer callbacks. And that was also compounded with the stereotype of being a black man and being seen as aggressive and also uncooperative. And even when you look at the justice system, think about the over-policing and longer sentencing that black men get compared to other men of the same crimes. And that's done in the light of anti-black misandry. Matter of fact, I want to tell y'all a quick story about a family member of mine. So I have this family member who was attending college, and this brother was taking a social justice course. And in this course, he had this teacher who had them read this course pack material that talked about intersectionality and also talked about issues with racism and privilege and things like that. So for one of the classes, he and other black men were asked to stand up and then recite that they are black men who experience privilege in America. And so when he told me about this, immediately I was like, oh no, that's racist as shit. I said, we gonna have to do something about this, But then he kind of got on this train where he was like, I'm afraid to lose my scholarship. I'm afraid that something is going to happen. I really just don't want to do anything about this. I'm really trying to lay low and trying not to, shake anything up or trying to make any movements. So I kind of respected what he wanted to do. But I thought about that and I'm like, damn, even in situations of being in the education system, even wanting to confront anti-black racism and misandry makes somebody fear that they're going to actually lose opportunities. And yes, before you ask, he was indeed a white man. And I even had this old female friend, and there's a reason why I did it like that, who had a lot of these ideals. She had a lot of disdain for men. And every time she would get online, she would always talk about how much she hated men. She hated men's ways. She was always talking greasy about dudes and all types of stuff. And I know that for the most part, she was talking about black men. Now, she was grouping white men obviously into that, but she was mostly talking about black men. And you could even see it in her behavior and her treatment, because even when we used to hang out, I remember one time I held open the door for her, and her comment to me when I did that was, I got two hands, and she said that shit with an attitude. So I was like, I should have let that door just slam in your face and you hit the damn floor. And yes, before you ask, one of her parents is non-FBA. Anyway, Shea Butter Sambas will just go around and just express open contempt for black men. But then they'll go around and then lump us in with white men as well too, and then try to repackage it all together and call it misogyny. They act like we as black men have control of everything in society when we literally have control of nothing in America. It's as if they're trying to make it somewhat of a systemic thing when that just simply doesn't exist. And really what I think it is, y'all, I think that feminism in its original form, because I don't want to go into all that this wave shit, that wave shit, got them real fucked up. Think about it. A lot of these old school white feminists were staunch racists. Think about Elizabeth Stanton, who was prioritizing white women voting over the rights and lives of black people, especially black men. And, and then you had Susan B. Anthony, who was super racist. A lot of these white feminists back in the day were even willing to work with people such as the KKK. So I don't want to sit around and act like this is something that is an honorable system that someone should even be creating some type of mentality from. They love to talk about intersectionality this, intersectionality that, and then somehow straight black men get left out of the intersection. And the only way a straight black man would even be somewhat respected within that intersection is if they actually agree with the ideals of people who believe the things that I just stated. Black men experience what I call intersectional double standards, which basically is that black men are said to have reaped the benefits of being a man, but then we literally don't reap the benefits of a man, while others lie on us about reaping the benefits of being a man. When it comes to these intersectional groups, we're not even given basic allyship or acknowledgement of the struggles and racism that we experience. Hell, even in the Black Lives Matter website back in the past, like a couple years ago, they didn't even have black men listed as individuals who they advocate for. They had all these other groups. They were talking about black women, they were talking about black gays, black trans, people of color, but we were gone. We weren't even in the conversation. That's because black men are the most openly hated, disrespected, and ostracized group of people to the point where it's normalized. And as a matter of fact, it's actually unpopular to defend yourself when these things are happening. Think about it, y'all. If we express our anger, we're hyper-criticized, we're judged, we're ridiculed, we're pathologized. Everybody has something to say about us actually being angry. And if we do it in the wrong places, it can actually lead to our death, because the dominant society will try to make it seem like we're the angry Negro, and that turns into something where these race soldiers get involved, and again, we lose our lives. So we don't even have that. And then if we stay silent, we're seen as weak, or we let that shit bottle up, and then it turns into the first problem I just talked about. And I just want to say something, and this is going to be vastly unpopular. As a matter of fact, some of you all who are watching me right now are probably not going to like it, but you'll be the fuck all right. I just got to say this. That speech that Giovanni did with James Baldwin back in the day that everybody thinks is the best shit smoking, that lied to me speech or that lied to me discussion that they had, I don't see why it's so profound. I truly don't. What I gathered from that, even though many may gather different, is that this woman is saying, lie to me. You go and you pretend and be happy and smile in the face of these white folks. But when you get home, I get your anger, I get your frustration, I get your sadness. I need you to do the same thing for me as you do for them, which means that that black man is only going back and then hiding his pain, hiding his anger, and hiding all these other things and pretending, therefore not giving him space to be able to express himself. I think this actually was very damaging. I don't really think that it was deep. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that it's totally untrue. I do think that there should be somewhat of a balance. However, I don't see that piece as being profound, because then I would ask the question, would it be profound when it came to us looking at it the other way around? What if I told a woman, you can smile in that white dude's face while you're getting a job and trying to reap the benefits of the dominant society, but I need you to be feminine to me also. A lot of women would have a problem with that. So I don't understand that double standard. And by the way, I just got to say this, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I just have to say it. When it comes to Nikki Giovanni, even just looking at her entire profile, it makes me question everything, because this is a woman who ended up going and marrying a white woman. So you can't be that pro-black if you would go back and do that while criticizing the nature and the problems and the issues that black men have to deal with on a daily basis, and to tell them to keep sweeping it under a rug. Anyway, I appreciate channels and also activists such as TommyJCurry, Torrin Walker, Sean James, and many more who will actually go and talk about these topics, because we as black men need to be able to have discussions about the things that we see, and to be able to share our experiences in a space where we're safe to share them, we're heard, we're understood, and it's acknowledged that this is something that we need to work together to stop from happening. In the meantime, I encourage black men who are watching this to speak your mind, especially when you're being disrespected. When you are being disrespected, I don't care by whoever it is, you should speak up and check it up front, or as upfront as you can check it. You need to not worry about what anybody has to say, any criticisms you may get, or did you really think about this before you would say this is stop. Don't listen to any of that shit. Your boundaries and your respect is non-negotiable, and you set that tone from the get-go. Do not let other people tell you that you cannot do that. It's a time and place for everything. I don't like the way you did this. I don't like the way you did that. You're taking everything out of context. You're being too sensitive. Just fuck all that bullshit. If you are being disrespected, check it up front. And also, too, I would encourage you in the meantime to start connecting with people who understand the things that you have been through, and also can empathize and will be willing to have these types of conversations with you. And that means black men in this case, black men who have experienced the same things and can share their stories and things that have worked for them. Also seek black women and camaraderies and connections with black women who are willing to be nurturing, caring, feminine, and loving when it comes to this type of thing. You're able to share your stories with them. They're able to empathize, have compassion for you, and also understand the struggles and the things that you can go through. And together, you all can have a conversation about how these issues show up and where they exist. And you both can help each other be advocates to continue to spread love within the community. Because I guarantee you, these sisters are out there. Because even in the platform that I create on my Instagram channel, I have found many beautiful, great, and loving black women who are that way. And that's not just including my wife. Just like misogyny, anti-black misandry is not acceptable in our community. And we need to stop that at all costs. We need to make sure that we're advocating for black men loving black women, and black women loving black men. And that means that we understand each other's struggles. We help each other out. We listen to each other, and we show compassion when these things are taking place, and finding ways not just to heal together, but to also make society a better place for, again, black men and black women. And in the case of anti-black misandry, that means taking a closer look at something that is rarely ever talked about. Because trust me, the white supremacist wants to see us at war with each other, because they'll go and they'll do all these things on social media and try to make it seem like it's worse than what it is. But I guarantee you that in real life, the people who you make connections with who are authentic, genuine, and loving, it's not happening that same way. And that's the flow that we need to keep going. But when it comes to anti-black misandry, we need to tackle this at the forefront. And as black men, we need to find safe spaces where we're able to express ourselves and be accepted for who we are, and not treated like trash because we're black men and expected to just accept it. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I definitely will have more to come, so make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, I would love it if you like this video, subscribe, share, and also hit the bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. Other than that, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out, y'all.